iOS 26 versus One UI 8. Which one's better? Welcome back to SamMobile TV. You're here with Daniel. And continuing our theme of comparing the iPhone to the Samsung, today we're going to break down iOS 26 and compare it against One UI 8. It's a fascinating one because a lot of people have accused Samsung with One UI 7 of basically just blatantly ripping off what Apple have done over here. It doesn't really look that way to me. I think Samsung have maybe taken design cues, but I don't think they've really taken what they've done here and just replicated it. They've done it in their own way. So I've got a few categories I'd like to go through. Interactions, being like how you access things. I've got unique features, so things like dynamic island. I want to look at customization because I think a lot of people have said Apple have really stepped up customization in the past couple of iOS versions. So I'd like to check that difference. And then I want to look at productivity and AI. Productivity and AI, I think, go hand in hand, but I'll separate them because there's some differences across the two. Okay, starting with interactions. It's so different. It's so fundamentally different between iOS and One UI that it's a really hard thing to compare. So I broke it down into a few different areas. I've got how you access the notifications in the quick panel, and then animations. What sort of fluid animations do each thing sort of offer? So starting with how I access notifications. Let's start over here with the S25 Ultra and One UI 8. What I really like is the fact I can swipe down from the middle and bring down notifications. And then if I swipe across, I can access the quick panel and swipe down to bring that down as well. It's just so fluid, and I can go back and forth between the two, not having to constantly swipe back and then go up and then go across. It's all sort of fluidly controlled together. In terms of how it looks when you've got it down, you've got the quick panel, which I don't like that line. I'm not sure why Samsung did that across 2 generations now. I think One UI 8.5 might fix it. But just functionally, this for me performs better because especially with a big phone, I can pull this down from here to get my notifications and across to get my quick panel, and it just nicely flows together. Let's go over here. It's a big phone. Swiping down from the middle brings up search. Now, if you're an iPhone user, you're used to that. I totally get it. And then a swipe up gets that down. But for me, with such a big phone, if you're trying to check your notifications now, what you're going to have to do is really perform hand gymnastics to get that down properly and get that there. And then there's no interaction between the two. I can't go from here over to the control center or sort of swipe. I can only swipe away notifications one way. I can't swipe them away that way for some reason. And see what I mean? And then this is the lock screen. For some reason, bringing down notifications from here brings the lock screen down, and then swiping back up takes me back to home with this big grand animation gesture. Control center, I've got to go to the other side. And again, with one hand, that can be a little bit tricky. But the control center is functional and customizable. I can press this plus button here and I can change the size of things. I can delete things if I don't need them. I can expand something out eventually. Maybe not. Apple just works. Expand stuff out. I can add different controls in. You can see the list of controls here that you can access integrated with apps as well, like adding in an Instagram toggle there. That doesn't exist on the quick panel on One UI 8. And then you can add in extra pages where you can just keep adding in controls and keep going for as long as you need to. The problem I have with that, adding in those extra pages, is if I want to just swipe this away, I can't. I've got to be conscious of the fact that there's an extra page there because the only way to swipe back or go back to home is to tap anywhere in that area or a big swipe up from the bottom. If I deleted a page, so if I go here and get rid of this, that page will be deleted. Then swiping up from anywhere will get rid of it, which is the way I'm going to keep it because that is just how I'm familiar with. Then there's animations to consider. I can factor in Good Lock and the customization with animations here because if I go into Good Lock and into the Home Up app, that is where a lot of the tuning you can do with Samsung exists. So Home Up, not only can you customize home screen, which we'll get to, but you've got the gesture settings here. So this is where I can change the app open tuning and also the home gesture tuning. And it really does speed the gestures up, like the home animation and the app opening animation. Everything is just really fluid and snappy. and you really do notice that quickness. Apple, they're fast, and they also put a lot of attention to detail into areas you might not even expect. Allow me to show you what I mean. So like I showed you before with bringing up the search icon or the search bar, the finder. If I swipe down, take a look at the search icon here, right? Search icon just expands out and goes back and retracts back into itself. That's nice. That's a nice animation touch. Same with the notifications. Swipe this down here. That animation with the depth exists as well. And you can see that goes in behind and it goes back to that. This animation is fine and it's functional and it's practical, but it's not like you compare these two, that's stylish and looks clean, even if it's the lock screen and it's not needed. This is a blur. And then you go swipe up from the bottom, and then you get all the things retracting back into itself. Samsung has those animations in spots like the now brief. You can see that things retract back into itself, but it's just not the same. It's just not the same, and I'll show you it's not the same because when I swipe down here, the time doesn't expand into the time, neither does like the battery percentage. It just kind of reappears. Animations aren't everything. Function exists as well. So things like unique features have to come into play. So on the iPhone, I'm going to highlight a couple of things that sort of compare with each other, like the dynamic island versus the now bar. Dynamic island, very interesting one for me because I thought everyone overhyped this a lot and they talked about how big of a feature this was. Let's just show you an example. So let's both use the voice recorder. Okay, voice recorder. So if I hit record here, that's going to record. Let's swipe away. So dynamic island, you can see it there. It's showing me what's happening. Now bar showing me that it's recording. If I hit the dynamic island, it just goes straight into the app with a big looping animation. Then it goes back in when I close it. I don't know if I prefer that. I like the fact that if I tap on the now bar, it just does that. I don't have to go straight into the app. If I choose to, I can press it again and go into it. Whereas I can just do this and control it. Dynamic island, you have to long press to do that and then retracts back in. Okay, let's lock the screen and show you what happens now. The now bar moves it down to the bottom. The voice recorder has taken it away from there and put it close to the bottom as well. Tap on that, expands out. Tap on this. Well, it's technically already expanded, but it just stretches out and elongates. You got to decide which one you prefer. What's your preference when it comes to that? Is it the now bar there or is it this one? The thing I like about the now bar is you have options to control what uses it in its own dedicated menu. If I go to now bar here, you can see you got Google Finance, Sports from Google, Media Player, Maps, Samsung Health. You go through and you see what supports it and can toggle it on or off. Dynamic Island doesn't have a settings menu for it. And even it's called live notifications. That doesn't have a settings menu for it either. So I know which one I prefer because I have a bit more control over the live notifications here with One UI versus the Dynamic Island over here. However, the support for this is unrivaled. This has much greater third-party support. Apps pretty much build it when they build their app to support this, whereas Samsung, they kind of either have to make it themselves or they have to get the company to support it like a partner like Google. It's a bit frustrating, but that's just how it works at the moment. Then there's other things that I really like edge panels. This is just so good. I can't describe to you how much I miss having them over here. Because of the fact you can't really customize this home screen beyond the grid size and widget size, there's very limiting functionality there. And because over here you have just endless customization, I can make the home screen clean, as minimal as I want, and then add in extra stuff here in the dock. As opposed to needing to swipe all the way across here to the app library, or as opposed to the Samsung having to swipe up, I can swipe out here from the dock and bring up my favorite apps that I want to use. The best part is that I could be maybe scrolling on YouTube and then I don't want to look at YouTube anymore. Rather than having to exit out of YouTube and then finding the app I want to use, I can keep YouTube open, swipe out, jump into Twitter. Oh, done with that. Want to go to Instagram. Oh, done with that. want to go to see my gallery, which is not there. I want to go see what's happening in my files. Easy. Over here, you don't really get that. If you want to do that same flow, you go into YouTube and you're like, yep, done with YouTube. Swipe out, swipe down, tap, tap. Time-wise, you're not saving a hell of a lot of time with the edge panels, but it just feels more fluid, feels more natural to jump between the apps that way. Some people might say, oh yeah, just use the whatever that is versus using it over here. I would much prefer the edge panels because the edge panels also give you the option of dragging in like pop-ups where you can have a pop-up or you can have like a multi-window environment where I can have multiple apps open at once. So I could have YouTube open up there, Samsung Notes open at the bottom, bang. Then I'm going to get into customization. Third-party customization exists on iPhone. There's a lot you can do through third-party apps from the App Store. There's a lot of hoops you have to jump through, but they exist. But it doesn't change the core functionality of Apple's iOS customization, in that it's just limited as anything. I'll show you what I mean. If I long press here on the screen and go to Edit and go to Customize, you've got the app icons. You can customize the size to be either big or small. And then you've got the option of going default, dark, clear, or tinted. And then you've got some colors that you can control there and the visibility of those colors as well. Yeah, you know what? Decent little option there. You've got the way that you can do that. Sure. Go back to default because I think the liquid glass in that tinted one doesn't look very good to me. Just my own opinion. Okay. This is a big screen phone. Let's say I want to take advantage of that. If I go to settings and then I go to home screen and app library, that's it. That's your options. You've got nothing else. There's no grid size options. There's no options to add in extra apps to the dock. Like if I wanted to add the App Store down here, all right, chuck it in there. Can't do it. Won't do it. 4 apps down there is comical. Comical for a phone this big. So that's the customization, like even to do with widgets. It's very easy to transition the widgets from one size to the next, but that's the only 2 size options for widgets. You don't get the option of having like a skinny widget like this or like that or like that. It's either that or it's the 4 app size. That's it. Nothing else. I haven't got all day, so I can't show you everything over here, but just very simply, if I go to settings, I've got the app sizes that I can change, 3 different options. I then have the option to change my home screen layout to be home and app screen or home screen only, which mimics the iPhone's home screen over here. I then got the app screen grid. So with home up, you can add in 6 columns, but you can make it 5 or 4, taking advantage of the space going up to 6. I've then got the folder grid size, so I can change the grid size of the folders, which you can't do over here. Then when you go all the way down to more customizations, it takes you into home up. And this is where things can really start to advance. Because what happens when I go into here, I go into home screen and I can go and just go crazy. So that favorite max down the bottom, this, I can add up to 9 apps there. So if I wanted to chuck Amazon in there, just squeeze her in. And then I can make that a little bit cleaner or put it back there. And then you've got this thing called DIY Home, which gives you the absolute freedom to put anything literally anywhere on your home screen with complete freedom. You have the control. If you don't like the way it's given to you, make it something different. When it comes to the lock screen customization, I will give it to Apple. There's some really good options in here. So if I long press on the lock screen here and then unlock to edit, there we go. I hit customize. And in here, you've got some options like for the background to change the background of your image. And then you also have a toggle here for a depth effect, which would make the clock go in behind. And then you can adjust the size of that clock as well, depending on what's in the foreground there. You've got widget options as well. So you can see I can add different widgets into a widget card, which is nice. And then you can position that in there too. And then I've liked what I've done in that with this seamless background, I've made the background color black, which means that it's going to sort of mimic what I've got here with always on display. And then I can either get rid of these and keep it clean, which I've done, or I can keep them there. But that's the customization. That's what you can do. It's nice. And like I said, it's got those little animations and tweaks to make that lock screen look good. Then I go over here and customize the lock screen on the S25 Ultra. On the surface, it's very similar to what's over here, but when you factor in Lockstar, this is where you really can take things to another level. You've got app widgets where you can actually get widgets from apps that are on your phone, not just lock screen widgets, and put them in here. You can have little shortcuts to have favorite apps like a dock that you can expand out down the bottom as well. You've got the way you can add text onto the screen. You can remove things like the lock icon. You can add extra widgets. You can change the clock. You can have a suggestion where AI will suggest to you a lock screen based on what you've got on the screen there. It's all the same, but then built on because you got that extra Lockstar, because you have the same customization over here without that depth effect. Samsung now have this dynamic lock screen instead, and it's pretty much mirrored. And again, customization is just more. You can do more. And then productivity. Productivity for me, you've got a couple of things that really stand out. Samsung DeX and the S Pen. S Pen's a hardware feature, but there is software features that unlock. But just Samsung DeX is just so good. And I don't really need to remind you Samsung users how good Samsung DeX is. But the thing is with the iPhone, you just don't have it. There's no equivalent. You can't compare because it doesn't exist. And it's a shame that it doesn't exist because the phone is so powerful. The A19 Pro is such a capable chipset. Something like a Samsung DeX experience would go really well here. But of course, Apple aren't about that. They don't like to expand your capability set with one product. They prefer you go and get another one to add in. Samsung obviously want you to do that too, but you get my point. But there's other productivity features that exist on the phone that I wanted to really check out. I found this one kind of by accident with the 17 Pro Max that iOS has. Well, let's just say you've taken a screenshot, all right? I have this weird bug on at the moment where if I try and take a screenshot, I have to lock the phone first, then unlock it again, and then the screenshot will work. But if I long press on the thumbnail that it's created, and let's say I want to go into WhatsApp, and then I want to drag this and attach it into a message, it can do that. And then I can send that off. I thought that was really cool. I was like, oh, it's so annoying that Samsung can't do that. And then I tried it. Screenshot, long press on the thumbnail, bring up WhatsApp, bring up the chat, drop it in, send. It can do it too. Not only can it do it that way, but let's just say I had the gallery in one half of the screen and WhatsApp in the other. I can then drag and drop like that with multitasking. Your iPhone can't do that. This iPhone can't do that because it cannot do split screen multitasking. That's the next one. Is Samsung have just long been of the notion that if it's available, you can do it. Split screen multitasking is one of them. Let's just say I had Notes app open and I wanted to drop an image into the note. I can just drop the gallery open down the bottom, select the photo, and just drag it in. And then it's there. I don't have to go through any other attaching or anything like that. It's just that simple. The way I showed you just then with iOS, where if I had a photo here, got to select it first. Select it, and then drag out. No, I can't do it. That doesn't exist on iOS, that Samsung Notes thing, to drag and drop something like that in. So I really like Samsung's ideas that they just give you more. There's other things too, like if I open up the Edge panel here, again, the Edge panel is such a big thing. You've got things like AI Select, which is like a smart select feature, which if I want to screenshot just a portion of the screen, I can do that. And then brings up a whole bunch of AI functions as well. And that's probably my next point of call, is AI. Apple Intelligence launched to much fanfare, but then ultimate fail when it came out with iPhone 16 last year because it actually never really came out. If I go into the settings menu of iOS 26 and I find Apple Intelligence and Siri, and then I go into Galaxy AI's menu, you'll see that Galaxy AI tells you where AI is on the phone. There is absolutely no ambiguity about it. The AI menu shows you everything that you need to know when it comes to AI. You scroll through the list, you see everything that's on there. And then if you click on something like Note Assist, it tells you the feature set and it gives you some options for language. Over here with Apple Intelligence, you just have a toggle to turn it on. There is literally nothing else other than that, and it doesn't show you where that sort of stuff exists. You go into the apps list here, and it basically is just a notification thing, or if you click on it, it'll just give you an option to toggle on something. Nothing specific about Apple Intelligence. Like if I go to Journal, there's no Apple Intelligence stuff in there. It's just learn from this app. That's it. Doesn't say that there's not stuff in there though. Stuff that exists on Samsung too. Like for example, the writing assist stuff that Samsung have here exists on iPhone. So if I go into Safari and let's go to our website, SamMobile. All right, this is this article here. Let's just bring up for fun the same article over here. All right, One UI is out for these Galaxy smartphones and tablets. Okay, so with Apple Intelligence on here, if I wanted to summarize this, I'd have to select, there's no select all. Excellent. I'd have to go through and select the text that I want to summarize, hit the writing tools, and then make it concise. And that's not really a summarize feature. That's just more like a writing tools feature. With Galaxy AI here, I can hit summarize, and then this is now going to summarize the entire article for me to read through, as opposed to needing to read the whole thing, that I can copy or translate that out of there. The writing tool stuff also exists. So if I wanted to select the text here, and hit Galaxy AI, there's the writing tools menu that exists in the same way. You've got that. You want to know what I've really found annoying with iOS is, see this down arrow here? Where's the down arrow? Where is it? That's what you've got to do. You can do both on Samsung. The down arrow is so clutch. So that was a big thing for me, comparing that. The other one was Galaxy AI's generative edit feature versus Apple's cleanup. So let's go find a photo first and then we'll come back. Okay, here's a photo that I'd like to probably get rid of the sign, maybe the chair, and maybe that blue thing over in the background. So if I go here and go to cleanup and then go to generative edit. So there's a couple of fundamental differences. Apple's cleanup is being done on device, whereas Samsung's is being done sort of combination on device and then cloud. But their output level is just so different. So Apple's cleanup, if I want to get rid of that, I just select it and it's kind of gone. It's a bit blurry. If I want to get rid of the chair, you can see it's kind of gone, but it's kind of just brought the tree back out. And if I want to get rid of the sign. Okay, generative edit. Let's do the sign. Let's do the chair. And then let's go over here and do the boat, whatever that is. Okay, then I hit that and then generate. Now, this might take a little bit longer than what the Apple Intelligence one did because, like I said, it's sort of using a bit of cloud processing, but the output is just so much better and so much more worth it versus what you get in cleanup. Remember, this is what the best that cleanup could do. And if I zoom in on the middle there, that's a completely different sort of, if you look at the original there, like look at that versus look at what they've done there. Samsung recreated the background and gave us a better output. That generative edit versus cleanup, there's just such a big difference. And like, this isn't even a really extreme example. There are so many more extreme examples. I was trying to be as fair, give this as simple a task as possible. Let's take this one, the chair, and let's go here and let's go here. Generative edit, cleanup rather, sorry, over here. Okay, and then generative edit, let's just do this big circle, remove, generate. Like again, what's that all about versus what's about to happen over here? Voila. It's like it was never there versus there was something there before. So obviously, I focused this very heavily. I wanted to just look at areas of the phone that people might use. And yes, iOS, you can't deny, is fluid. Apple have really intentionally made things to work in ways that have an aesthetic about it. But One UI is catching up in aesthetics, but has always been ahead in functionality. The settings menu is an actual settings menu. You can go in here and you have settings for things and toggles for things to change something. If you don't like it, head into here and get rid of it. With Apple's settings menu, you don't have that. There's no way to change things. It's either a toggle to enable something or leave it off. That's really about it. That's my comparison. Take away what you want from it. Hit subscribe to SamMobile TV, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks.